Last week on Saffy Sprocket, we began our adventure with a delayed start due to faulty brakes, followed by one burnt right hand, one infected left hand, several missed turns, a wild camping trip, one missed ferry trip, a very grumpy attitude, swiftly followed by an inspiring reality check, ending the day with passing out in my tent. If you've ever had the luxury of owning a motorcycle, you'll know the feeling all too well. The moment you turn on the ignition, heaven is all around us. It's on the road beneath our feet, in the wind between our hair, and it's found within the sensation of an accelerating engine. And no love can be said to be fairer than that of a biker found in the wilderness. In nature, nothing is perfect, but simultaneously, everything is. It's a bit like when you get your first bike. It might not be the best bike on the market, and it might not be the fastest, but at that point in time, at that moment, it's perfect. The moment, the weather, the company, or perhaps lack of, everything at that moment in time is just as it should be. However, often it's only as we begin to age that we realise the true value of these moments as they fade into distant memories, when they become just another life lesson in discovering ourselves. They always say that when you look deep into nature, you'll truly understand life a little bit better. I often feel this way when I travel, that I'll understand myself a little bit more. This was especially the case the morning when I understood it all too well, just how much I hated the rain as I begrudgingly packed up my tent.
So obviously with it being raining, I have to get Rocket through the gravel to the main path. I've taken all the luggage off so I can pack everything in, finish packing up, get everything on the bike, and then last things last, I can just take the tent down, throw it on the back of the bike, and then I can go. So this way everything stays relatively dry until I'm actually ready to go on the road. So that's what I'm going to do now.
Now that everything was packed up, I headed over to reception to bid farewell to the poor man whose arm I nearly took off with a gas explosion the day before. Hello, can I return this?
Night. Oh, it's night.
Oh, I slept so badly.
Really?
Just because of the storm.
Okay.
So,
How long is that? How long is the drive?
8 hours?
Oh, motorbike 8 hours.
Yeah.
I think the worst I did was maybe 5 or 6 hours straight with the same kind of motorbike, but after that it's not fun at the end. Throw your camping gas away. I can actually feel my skin.
Really?
Like it's not burn, but I can smell chicken instead. You know, like when you're burning
Oh
chicken.
my god.
So yeah, that was limit.
Maybe don't start any more fires, yeah? Bye! Now, last night at 8 PM, I checked out the weather forecast and I knew that I was in for a wild ride today. So I headed out around sunset to scrape as much mud off my motorcycle as I possibly could, as well as give my chain a quick clean. I also took the liberty of stocking up on supplies like energy drinks and snacks, as well as bags for my feet. In the morning, I also went ahead and grabbed a handful of plastic gloves from the petrol station. Now, you're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation. Well, you see, I was unfortunately 2 days behind schedule. This meant that by the time I got to the Isle of Skye, I had two choices. I could either travel back down the morning after without getting to see any of the island, or stay another day and suffer the wrath of the elements the day after. So after a quick fill up at the petrol station, I was on the road ready to make the treacherous 8-hour journey from the Highlands to the Midlands. The first leg of my journey was terrible. There was genuinely no part that I enjoyed. I couldn't speed up because of the rain, and I didn't want to slow down and risk getting soaked. More importantly, I felt annoyed at yesterday's Saffron for giving me this difficult journey home. The trick in difficult times like these is to remember that the only way you can fail is by giving up. So as long as I kept going through the horrible rain, no matter how fast or slow I was going, I was still telling myself that I was just one wheel turn closer to home. Now, the journey home was so incredibly long that I needed to make sure that at every possible turn I was conserving energy as best I could. Now, I knew from my trip at Christmas the moment my hands and feet would get wet, it was game over for my concentration levels. However, despite these precautions, by the time I reached my first stop an hour away, I wasn't feeling great. Now, despite being only 1 hour down out of 8, the bad weather had completely drained my energy levels. I decided to sit in a coffee shop for another hour in hopes that I'd recover. However, I was determined not to let myself relax too much, and I was back on the road after 2 coffees. I decided that it was best just to get my head down and get as far south as I could. I knew the moment I got to Glasgow I'd be out of the rain. However, I still needed to get through Glencoe Valley with the harsh rain and wind. Nonetheless, I decided to push on through and make my next stopping point at a service station at the start of the M8. As I turned a corner in the valley, that's when reality hit me. I couldn't mentally comprehend how prehistoric the world felt. Despite the bad weather, I decided to pull over and admire Scotland for all of its beauty. I decided not to linger for too long. Despite edging closer to the Scottish borders, I still had a long journey ahead of me. Once I had hit Glasgow, I was now 4 hours away from my destination. However, from here on in, the journey got a lot easier. Okay, so I've made it out of the Highlands. I'm currently at a service station outside of Glasgow. 4 hours down, 4 to go. I smell terrible. So, I have something very, very cool to show you guys. It is my first little sticker on my luggage. I'm so excited. Ooh. Let's stick it on. Let's stick it straight on. Oh, this is exciting. I should get a North Coast 500. Oh, this is so exciting. As I began to travel down south, I couldn't help but think of all the disastrous things that had happened to me over the last 3 days. If there's anything that this journey has taught me, it's that the key to staying resilient to the bad things that are happening around you is by finding gratitude and appreciation from within them. Yes, I had been late, yes, I had got hurt, and yes, I had made some poor decisions that meant I was paying the price for them today. However, at this point in time, all I had to do was accept where I was, let go of where I wanted to be, and have faith that I would get where I wanted to be sooner or later. Stay tuned for next week's episode of Saffy Sprocket. But first, a word from one of our biggest fans.
Right,